Yes, folks, hello, welcome once again to Monetary Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at G.I. Joe Classified 165, the Snake Eyes version 4. So stick around, I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about the figure. So if you've been thinking about picking up a Snake Eyes of your own, you'll have good, thorough information to know whether this guy is worth your hard-earned cash or not. I'm going to start by jumping back in time and visiting past Chris on the day this arrived on my doorstep and take a look at the packaging for those who like the mint in box stuff. Then move on to the figure itself, talk about the aesthetic and the visual experience, talk about the articulation and posability, have a rundown of all the accessories, and then compare him up against a couple of other figures. And when all that's said and done, you should have loads of thorough information to know whether this is the type of figure you want to crack your wallet open for. So let's get into it and let's jump back in time to past Chris and see what he had to say. Okay then, folks, well, here is the new Snake Eyes version 4 in packaging. And as you can see, it's now the standardized G.I. Joe Classified series packaging that we've seen for a while. Got the carbon fiber motif, G.I. Joe Classified Series logo across the bottom. He's a Joe character, so got the Joe symbol, name of the character in the top left, and of course the window in center, key focus, showing off the figure and all the goodies. Then on the back, we've got the digital render showing Snake Eyes in action, number 165 in the line, couple of breakout windows showing off a few key sculpted features. Got the legal bollocks and malarkey across the bottom. And then, of course, the file card. Let's learn a bit more about Snake Eyes together, shall we, folks? And getting it started, we've got a skull on the side here. This is actually Yorik's skull, because you might not know it. We think of Snake Eyes as a mute, silent, doesn't say anything, but actually he's got quite a blossoming career in amateur theatrics and enjoys doing a little bit of Shakespeare and has most recently played Hamlet. So there you go, alas, poor Yorick. Snake Eyes knew him well. Then we have this sword here. This is reflective of Snake Eyes' love and interest in Japanese history, specifically warrior history. And that sword there is the, what's it called? The grass cutter, which I will choose not to say in Japanese for fear of murdering it and embarrassing myself. Then we got this little eyeball with a line through it because, you can't see his face. And then finally, I've got no idea what this is, and I can't be bothered looking it up. So I'm going to assume it's a Triffid. It must be a Triffid, because as we all well know, Day of the Triffids is one of Snake Eyes' most favourite TV shows. Then on the side of the box, we've got a bit of artwork showing Snake Eyes in action. Again, it's all right, this one, but there's definitely some janky stuff going on here. I feel like this sword is badly proportioned to the rest of the body and what it should be, and it's kind of angled weird on the hilt there. Yet more evidence suggesting a slightly off-center interpretation from the AI image generator that they're obviously using. And then, the other side is just full of the usual crap, basically including the QR code to nowhere. So there we go. There's a peek at Snake Eyes in packaging for the Mint in Box collectors and for folks interested in the peg presents. I, of course, I'm not a Mint in Box collector, so I'm going to crack this bad boy open, get good and hands-on with some man-child playtime, check him out next to some other figures in some displays, pose him up in some photos, all that good stuff, have him as a desk figure for a day or two, and gather up some review thoughts. So stick around, because Future Chris is going to come back and share those review thoughts with you in 3, 2, 1... All right then, folks. Well, here is Snake Eyes as he came out of the packaging. Let's take a quick head-to-toe look of the figure to begin with and talk about the visual experience, talk about the aesthetic qualities of Snake Eyes version 4 here. And as always, one of my preoccupations with the G.I. Joe Classified series line is whether it's a classified reinterpretation, a new generation G.I. Joe, whether it's vintage-inspired, is it coming from the cartoon, is it coming from the comic book, etc., yada, yada, yada. This is clearly heavily inspired by the vintage figure, but with a few kind of classified style embellishments on it. So he's got the red goggles, he's got the silver mask over his mouth, the tactical vest with that kind of black pattern on the underneath, black trousers, blue jumper, he's got the braces on his arms. But there are some subtle differences, like the boots down here, these are black, and if I remember right, the original vintage figure was blue still there. Got the introduction of these kind of pouches and the holster here on the thighs in the grey, some ornamental kind of embellishments and stuff. So it's heavily inspired by the vintage, but with a few little touches on top just to kind of move it forward into that modern 6-inch form. Bringing the camera a bit nearer to take a closer look at the finer details. You can see that there's lots of nice little elements to give it some depth, give it some texture. Starting with the head there, you can see we've got stuff like the seam lines, some creases. The face mask at the front has got some sculpted in details. Nice shiny paint job on that as well to really stand out in that kind of silvery metallic look. the red goggles across the eyes, and they're well applied. And then you can see the blue straps running here across the side. Again, all neat and tidy. They've gone for a very kind of flat paint job, a very flat red paint job across the goggles there. It's not shiny or reflective or anything like that, which is a little bit of a shame. That could have been an opportunity to update it, but it looks fine. I'm still a bit unsure about the head shape. I mentioned this when we saw the figure reveal on the stream, whichever stream it was, all that time ago, and I'm still a little bit uncertain about the head shape. It does look a bit kind of bowly to sort of round at the top there, but in hand it's not quite as bad. I suppose you'll make your own decision as to whether that's too round or not, too kind of soccer ball, as you would say in North America, or football, as we would correctly say here in the United Kingdom. Then we've got all the sculpted detail here in his tactical vest. I mentioned the texture detail in the black parts there to match up to the texture detail that's in the vintage figure, but we've got the sculpted pockets and whatnot, random clasp at the front here, and then some black elements with that texture detail in around the side. It's looking a bit too grey there, if you ask me. Could have done with a little bit of something else, or at the very least, make sure both your clasps are painted across the front there, both your clips, but whatever, that's fine. The sculpting is certainly good. I mentioned there were some ornamental embellishments there to give it a bit more depth and make it more classified-ized, and you can see that here in these arm braces. Got the Japanese typography there written up on the side. Different on each of the arms as well. We've got this text here, and then we have this text over here. If anyone out there is conversant with Japanese typography, want to let me know what they spell, what they write. You'll also notice while I'm looking at the arm braces here, got a little bit of texture detail on these grey trimmings underneath, and it's a shiny look on these to make them look a little bit more kind of, I don't know, reflective, stand out, interesting. The belt across the middle sculpted on. We don't see that all that often. Normally these belts hang loose, but this is sculpted on, again with a painted buckle on the front there, and then sculpted pouches around, and a couple of little studs and such like. Got a little thigh pouch with his throwing knives, got a little thigh pouch which includes the holster for his little submachine gun. I'll get to that later. Got thoughts on that. A nice blue stripe going down the leg, and then the blue texture detail on the back here on his calves, and then a similar kind of shiny black metallic look across the shin pieces to match up with the wrist pieces. The blue's nice on the undershirt there, and it's obviously a very tight undershirt showing off his musculature underneath. We know they can sculpt muscles, that's all fine and dandy. And then those little blue elements like the stripe down the back of the leg, down the side of the leg, and the bits on the back here and at the bottom of his shoes, kind of tie it all together and give it a nice bit of symmetry and balance in amongst the grey and black. So, aesthetically speaking, he is a good solid representation of that version 4 classic look Snake Eyes. For some, this is their Snake Eyes, and I can absolutely appreciate that for sure. This is a little bit later than my time, but I was aware of this character, of this figure, because I revisited the comic books later down the line and such like. And he does certainly look badass, doesn't he? He looks super cool. It's a very interesting interpretation of Snake Eyes. Again, I'm not really one for repeat characters, but this is different enough of a flavour for me that I've jumped in and picked this one up, because I do think he looks quite badass, really. It's an interesting twist on that kind of classic ninja trope. And ultimately, I'm going to give it a thumbs up for the visual experience. He looks like what he's supposed to look like. He represents the character in the way that, our visual memories remember the character to look. The only thing, as a personal note, that there's just kind of a dislike of mine is I'm not so sure I like the shininess of the shin pads and the arm braces there. Other than that, though, yeah, he cuts a nice figure. Good silhouette, good colours. Maybe doing a little bit more on the tactical vest, but overall, a pleasant visual experience. So there we go. All right, so that's the aesthetic. Let's now move on to articulation and talk about the posability of the figure, shall we? And as we get into articulation, folks, quick disclaimer, as always, I'll put chapters in down below so you can jump ahead to the accessories and added value. It is standard G.I. Joe Classified Series articulation, more or less, on this figure. And so if you don't need to see it, please feel free to avail yourself of that and jump ahead. But if this is the first G.I. Joe Classified Series review you've ever seen, or you're interested to know if there is any particular quirks, stick around, I'll walk you through it. Starting up top with the head then, it's the ball in the base of the skull, ball at the base of the neck. The down's all right. About there, then you got the up to there. Obviously, you can full axis 360 around in a spin, and you can do tilty bits and whatnot all with the head there. Moving down into the shoulders and arms, it's a butterfly joint there, giving you a bit of shuffle back and forward. Then it's the peg and the hinge. You can go all the way around, full 360, and then T-shape him out to there. Swivel here at the top of the bicep and tricep. Double elbow that'll get you up to there, but you have to sort of swivel these braces out a little bit, which is an interesting point because there's also an articulation point here, allowing you to swivel the braces around the forearm there, which is not particularly common on G.I. Joe Classified. And then pegged in hands that can go all the way around in the wrist joint. And then this side here, the right hand has a hinge forward and back. And this side here has a hinge up and down. Moving down into the torso, it's the classic G.I. Joe classified hinge in there, and then the ball at the waist. You can get some good crunch forward and good crunch back, but you have to sort of push up bunch up the tactical vest a bit there, and you can see there is a bit of a gap, a bit of clearance across the shoulders when you do that, and then plenty of swivel and motion there in the ball joint at the waist. Standard G.I. Joe Classified Series drop joint here at the hips and groin. You can go forward that far. Get your Russian ballet done. You can swivel at the top of the thigh. Your pinless double knee will get you up to there. Got the thigh cut, which is aligned to the boot line, so it's a boot cut there, giving you swivel there. And then the standard hinge and rocker for the feet. So it's good, solid articulation, definitely a thumbs up. Opens up a world of possibility with posing and whatnot. The posability factor's pretty high. Definitely want that sort of stuff with a ninja character like this so that you can, get him into ninja-style poses, martial arts-style poses, which is good. It's no secret to anyone who regularly visits this channel. I like the G.I. Joe Classified Series Articulation. It's not without its flaws, but I certainly get most of what my imagination wants to achieve with a character done there or thereabouts. So, yeah, no complaints here. Articulation's good. All right. So let's now take a look at the accessory selection, shall we? And to start us off, we've got a couple of katana swords here. Ninja dude with ninja swords. It works. It's fine. We've got the metallic paint application along the blade. Got the black sculpted handle at the back there. Then we've got this red accent, this paint application along the sharp edge of the blade and down at the base of the sword. Obviously, a little kind of nostalgic nod towards the bright red plastic that the original sword and submachine gun was sculpted in on the vintage figure. Thank goodness for that it's just a little nod. But yeah, good, fine swords. We've seen these before. Not quite as interesting as his uniquely shaped blade in some of the other figures, Snake Eyes figures, but all good nonetheless. And we have his little submachine gun. We've seen this before, but they put the splash of red in there again as that little nod. A little suppressor that you can unplug and plug in, and removable magazine. Single piece of molded plastic, not too rubbery, so that's all good. You can store the gun on the figure. There's this thigh holster thing, which is this flappy piece of crap on his thigh. I mean, it does hold the gun. It's actually quite surprisingly capable of keeping the gun in place, but I don't know. Look at that on the side of his leg. I'm not into that at all. Not into that at all. Then we've got the grappling hook with a little bit of, stringy rope stuff there in the red. Again, obviously a little nostalgic nod to the grapple hook that came with the vintage figure, although no launcher. Oh, well, where's my little launcher with a button on it, Hasbro? You know what I mean? This is all right. It's fine. Whatever. I took one photo with it of him stood on a rooftop, looking like he was about to throw it to cross to another rooftop. But outside of that, it's just for the bits box, really, without a little shoulder-mounted launcher for it. And then we've just got the little backpack piece here with the peg to carry his swords. It's all right. It's a bit loose. Well, of course, now that I've said that, it's sitting tight. But that little flappy bit there, it just kind of comes out. It doesn't kind of fit very nicely onto his back. But it's fine. Serves its purpose. It is what it is. So the accessory selection's all right, I suppose. It's a bit bland. To be honest, I've not got excited about it, but it's the fundamentals. Your ninja's got swords. Your Snake Eyes has got a submachine gun. He's got a grappling hook to climb walls. It's kind of the raw basics. I'll be the first to admit that I'm the kind of guy who gets bamboozled by flaming swords and leathery pig masks and stuff that get me a bit more giddy and more excited when talking about the accessory selection, but it does the job. Could have done with a couple of hand swats, maybe like holding a throwing knife or something along those lines, just to add a little bit more flavour, or to open up another world of possibility with some posing or displaying that you might want to do. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm going there. It's not a full thumbs up, but I'm not going full thumbs down. I'm floating just above mid. And that's only because it's just very, very kind of fundamental, basic, you know? All right, well, there's the accessories. Let's take a look at him next to a couple of other Joe characters, shall we? Here's Snake Eyes next to Scarlet, which I think is a good kind of shelf pairing, good display pairing there. Obviously got a lot of interconnected lore, although it'd be great if we could get a comic book, like full-on 90s looking Ninja Force version of Scarlet. Here's Snake Eyes next to the Night Creeper if you want to get all, you know, DIC cartoon and reenact that episode. And here he is next to the only other Snake Eyes that I own, which is this one called the Commando one? I've had to give him a different sword, because look what's just happened to the sword. Just snapped off in the sheath. Just while I was getting him prepped up to put on the screen there. Look at that. How disappointing. I like this crazier one. Okay then, folks, well, here is Snake Eyes going around on the turntables. You can get a 360 view of the figure, and while you're eyeballing that, I'll give you a few final thoughts. And honestly, your mileage is going to vary. Your mileage is going to vary as to how connected you feel to this Snake Eyes design, or how much in love you are with it, how badass you think it is, how attached you are to, you know, using it as a DIC substitute. I mean, it's pretty close to the DIC version, or you're really into that era in the comic books. As I said earlier, this was a little bit later than my time with G.I. Joe. I bought this figure because I thought it looked cool. And I've gone with the, you know, looks fucking cool rule in terms of making the purchase decision. But I did find myself a little unstuck when I came to display him, because then I was like, oh, I haven't got the good guy Storm Shadow. And I felt like, oh, we need some more of the Ninja Force. You know, we haven't got like a Tabang or anything. So I just, you know, I felt a little bit deflated when I came to sort of trying to do some stuff with him. I mean, I think it'll be better when Slice and Dice turn up. And I did take some photos using the Night Creeper a little bit, and Scarlet, so I wasn't completely without a place for him, but I would probably find myself displaying the other Snake Eyes more frequently when I'm doing a little shift around on my displays, you know. So your mileage will vary. That said, he's good. He's a solid G.I. Joe classified series figure. I've found him a little bit boring, a little bit bland, but that's only because again, I've become more kind of turned on and excited by the wackier stuff, but that's not, I mean, he's still pretty wacky, isn't he? I mean, he's a ninja in a face mask wearing blue, so he's wacky enough, you know. So yeah, this one's a personal choice, folks. I would recommend it if you feel connected to it, but if you're on the fence and he's not your Snake Eyes, then you might want to give it a miss, you know. So there you go. All right, well, thanks very much for watching, folks. I hope you found that useful. If you did, do all the, you know, the YouTubey stuff, click the like and subscribe and blah, 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 blah. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week, and swing back around for another video sometime soon. All right? Take it easy, folks.